All right, let's get to my 8. We saw Coach Griner's 8 here. Let's go ahead and look at these 8 to round out our total 16. Again, this is in alphabetical order, and no way is this list ranked. My first guy we have here, Nolan Hoosier. If we've got to put a guy here that's a special teams participant, he's a guy that's going to be one of the best. I mean, you're talking about maybe one of the best kickers in this nation, committed to Clemson. We know what he can do, how he's good. I told you he has that Stephen Curry range on the football field. As soon as you cross the 50, you'd feel like he's in range, and he's done that with some over 50-yard field goals this year and been big, of course, in one of their biggest games of the year versus Chambers, leading them to a victory with his field goals. Natavius Husky out of Crest. I think this is one of the guys that has emerged again to really, if we look later on and see that he's a finalist, I think the beginning of the year, the way he played, looking at that Gaffney game, just how he really took over that game and is leading Crest to an exceptional season. He's that guy that I think is really transformative and one of those guys that has taken this season by storm. The third guy, Jonathan Paylor. I mean, he's committed to NC State. He's 5'9", 170. He's a guy that's a receiver. He's an ATH because he can do it all. If you put him in the backfield, he has that athletic ability to be dominant there. So a guy we're looking to be, an incredible player for Burlington Cummings this year. Jamal Rule out of Salisbury. I mean, an excellent player last year in Jamaica Wells. They had graduated. What do? Bring in another running back who's top 50 in the nation for rushing yards so far this year. A phenomenal player as he continues to lead Salisbury. Next is Alex Taylor, 6'2", I think it's about 170-pound receiver out of Grimsley. Big-time four-star receiver here again. Has made some amazing catches this year. I've seen on Twitter some of the highlights of some of those catches in the end zone where he's dragging feet, making it a handful for any defender to have to get in front of him and guard game over game. Devon Thomas out of Roseville. We talked about Braden Atkinson. We've talked about receivers, Noah Rogers in the past. New head coach Rainier Rackley, a former running back. Of course, he's going to have a guy in there that's going to tote that rock. And Devon Thomas fits that bill. We know they played big games like Butler. They played other top teams as they're getting into conference play. His stats and his numbers have him, really high in the state as far as rushing yards this year. We talked last week in Grice's Game of the Week about Jordan Young being the two sides of the ball star for Monroe and the coach Johnny Sowell. He had a big game against Forest Hills in that big rivalry game. He's a guy on both sides of the ball. As even last year, a guy that had, I think it was 4 interceptions in a game. Someone that you don't want to really worry about on that defensive side of the ball, but on offense you have to worry because the offense is going to flow through him in a big way. And ironically here, Malcolm Ziegler, probably our best athlete of the bunch, Griner. He's a 10.79 100-meter dash guy. He's a big-time athlete, can play the DB position, committed to UNC. Definitely a guy out of that Raleigh area that I think is one that's an amazing player and somebody that you're going to have to watch out for. And I think he's does a great job of rounding out our list here. So, Griner, we have an amazing list of 16, and I look forward to seeing what we can do as we get this list down. It's going to be tough. It's going to be some long nights, but I've got faith in us that we'll get to our best.
Now, this is our final 16 right now. It does not mean that someone cannot jump in there and climb into it while we break it down. When we go to 12, when we go to 8, if someone keeps performing and they're outside the list, they're around 19 or 20, they can climb back into the rankings. Just keep balling, and you can get up there.
Yep, the regular season's about to end soon. Got to trim it to 8 soon. We'll be watching. Hopefully we'll have some big performances.